So we'll read from Bhagavad Gita, the war book. Gauranga was speaking from the Bhagavatam, the love book. And Prabhupada explains whether it is war or love, Krishna is all sweet. But this is a very interesting verse which Krishna is speaking to Arjuna and which defines the concept of Krishna consciousness. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyam na pranashyami sachamena pranashyati. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Purport. A person in Krishna consciousness certainly sees Lord Krishna everywhere. And he sees everything in Krishna. Such a person may appear to see all separate manifestation of the material nature. But in each and every instance he is conscious of Krishna. Knowing that everything is a manifestation of Krishna's energy, nothing can exist without Krishna. And Krishna is the Lord of everything. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the development of love of Krishna, a position transcendental even to material liberation. At this stage of Krishna consciousness, beyond all self-realization, the devotee becomes one with Krishna, in the sense that Krishna becomes everything for the devotee, and the devotee becomes full in love, in loving Krishna. An intimate relationship between the Lord and the devotee then exists. In that stage, the living entity can never be annihilated, nor is the personality of Godhead ever out of the sight of the devotee. To merge in Krishna is spiritual annihilation. A devotee takes no such risk. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochenana, Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti, Yam Shama Sundaram Achinta Gunaswarupam, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee, whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He sees in his eternal form of Shyam Sundar, situated within the heart of the devotee. At this stage, Lord Krishna never disappears from the sight of a devotee, nor does a devotee ever lose sight of the Lord. In the case of a yogi who sees the Lord as Paramatma within the heart, the same applies. Such a yogi turns into a pure devotee and cannot bear to live for a moment without seeing the Lord within himself. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalan Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Sri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So this is a very interesting and hope-giving verse. And this is the nature of Krishna's consciousness. We have Krishna consciousness and we also have Krishna's consciousness. When we understand Krishna's consciousness, then it becomes very easy to be Krishna conscious. In the Bhagavad Gita, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in the commentary for the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he explains, when Arjuna asked this question to Krishna, because Arjuna's surrounding, what is Arjuna's surrounding? Arjuna's surrounding is not Rishikesh, Vrindavan, in the temple. Arjuna's surrounding is the surrounding of an ordinary person. Prabhupada writes in the introduction to Krishna book, he says, Arjuna was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And again, Prabhupada explains, for everyone there is their own battlefield, which they have to wage a war. There is Kshetra, the field of action. Arjuna had his own field and everybody has their field. So therefore Arjuna raised this question to Krishna. He said, my dear Lord, how can I see you in material manifestation? Keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintosi bhagavan maya. How do I see you in matter? Seeing Krishna in the spiritual realm is very easy, because you don't have a choice only. Your consciousness is so drenched, being Krishna conscious, you don't think anything but Krishna. But to see Krishna where apparently Krishna is not visible, that is giving birth to Krishna consciousness. So therefore Arjuna is asking this question, how can I see? Keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintosi bhagavan maya. How can I see? And what does Krishna do? Krishna takes all material manifestation in this world. River, mountains, sun, moon, Prahlad Maharaj, who's born in a demonic family. So Krishna says, whatever that spark of the splendor you see, you should know that it is non-different from me. So in this way, Krishna expands the horizon of seeing Him. There are certain concept which says how less God is visible. God is only available where? In the kingdom of God. Rest everything is a prison house. But Krishna is talking something much beyond, much beautiful, much wonderful, much magnanimous, that there is no place where I am not existing. Therefore, Krishna's Janmastami, Lord's appearance in this material world, again a very beautiful understanding that whenever there is a decline and wherever there is decline, yada yadai dharmasya glani, Prabhupada explains, whenever and wherever, so there is no scope that one cannot say Krishna only appears in particular place. No, Krishna can appear anywhere and everywhere. And therefore Krishna is making it very clear, whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious principle, dharma, then appear. Therefore somebody asked this question, भगवान हमेशा भारत में क्यों जन्म लेते हैं? क्योंकि भारत में सबसे बड़े राक्षस लोग होते हैं ना. Wherever there is greater need, then the Lord appears there. If there is a neutral position, then He doesn't need to come. But there is the greatest resistance. Wherever there is the greatest resistance, that is the place where Krishna comes to harmonize. That is Krishna. And therefore, recently, some of our students, ex-students of Gopal's Garden, we had gone to trekking. Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam. Trekking is also Krishna. No? So then we were discussing after trekking about, because all these kids are mostly coming from devotees family, their parents were devotees. Therefore, devotional service was inspired. Most of the time it was imposed. They had no choice other than to accept Krishna consciousness by the parents. So therefore, I was asking them, can you share some of your thoughts about why you like Krishna, if you like Krishna? Here we are very honest, you don't have to worry about your parents. Let us discuss very honestly, because Krishna, another principle of Krishna, a beauty of Krishna, one point came out there, that Krishna doesn't want anyone to serve him with misery. He does not take pleasure in someone serving him at the cost of losing their life. I remember we had one elderly gentleman who would teach Maharaj different kinds of ragas, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Shibad. We used to call him Shibad uncle. And he would say sometimes, when I see some devotees chant Hare Krishna, ऐसा लगता है कि उनको constipation हो गया. He said, why you suffer chanting Hare Krishna? He said, Hare Krishna is a sweet nectar. Then why do you suffer chanting? Krishna has not come to cause burden in your life. If Krishna becomes burden in our life, that does not make him happy. अगर मेरे कारण तुम्हारे जीवन में बोझा हो रहा है, मुझे भूल जाओ, सुखी रहो. That is Krishna basically. It is not like our Duryodhan. Duryodhan is such a pervert. In the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he is telling Dronacharya, Madarte Taktva Jivita. What a pleasure he is experiencing. मेरे कारण ये सब लोग मरने के लिए तैयार है. जितने लोग मेरे लिए मरेंगे उतना मुझे सुख होता है. That is this kind of love where you see that other party is suffering at my cause, that gives you great pleasure. Ravana, for that matter, when the Lanka Vasis halfway through the battle, they were losing. It was a bad match. Right? Ravan lost Indrajit. Ravan lost other sons. Ravan lost his ministers. Ravan was losing so much of his soldiers. Then he asked some of his followers, go and wake up Kumbhakarna. Kumbhakarna was very powerful. But the problem was you cannot wake up Kumbhakarna. He has to get up on his own, whenever he gets up. Right. So there was a curse for Kumbhakarna, that if somebody wakes him up in the middle, then his death is sure. So Ravan was so much self-conscious, राक्षस यानी कि क्या, दूसरों के श्वास पर अपना जीवन को चलाना. Taking somebody else's life and surviving. So therefore Ravan was willing to kill his brother so that he can survive. That is the pleasure of a demonic force. But Krishna is not such kind of God. He is not a jealous. He is such a God, he is such a personality, that if he can be happy by some means, and that happiness is connected to dharma, he said, you are seeing me there. In the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains to Arjuna, he says, one who can control the lower self by the higher self and experience equanimity, he said, has already achieved Paramatma. He's already achieved Paramatma. Why? Because when Krishna knows that nothing is outside of me, how can anybody be outside of me? So therefore there is no fear of anybody losing to him. He does not fear that, अरे ये चला जाएगा, वो चला जाएगा. Right, in relationship we see, people are always fearful that I might lose. There is a fear, there is obsession of relationship. But Krishna doesn't have, because everyone is ultimately connected to him. Therefore, when we study Krishna's consciousness, what is his Chetana, then we become very fascinated by Krishna's character. We become attracted to Krishna. Like one of the concept of Bhagavad Gita, wherein Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, like we always quote this verse to make people serious about devotional service. What is that? That Bahunam Janmanamante, after many, many lifetimes you achieve Krishna, therefore be serious, you got a human form of life, and take it seriously and achieve perfection in this very lifetime. Then we also quote Krishna's verse only, Manushyanam Sahasreshu. After so many lifetime, among so many human beings, one can become a devotee. But we also fail to say, Krishna says, hey Arjun, that many people in the past. What is that verse? Baho jnana tapasa putam adbhavam agata. We have to quote both the verses. If you make something very rare, that is very discouraging. आपको लगता है कि मेरा स्थान मिलेगा ही नहीं इसमें. I am not one amongst them. So what does Krishna do? Krishna inspires, encourages. Many people have achieved perfection, Arjun. Don't worry. But saying only that, what does it do? It creates laziness. अरे हो जाएगा कभी ना कभी. But adding, so therefore the beauty of Bhagavad Gita when Krishna presents, it harmonizes the opposite. There is a rarity and it is also very easily available. Again, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, what does he harmonize? He harmonizes between our own endeavor and his grace. If you say only Krishna's grace, that you don't need to do anything, Krishna will take care of everything, what does it do? Then you feel that you don't need to do anything. Yesterday we were debating with one of our very close devotee friend. We had gone to celebrate Janmastami at his place. So the discussion was, he was saying ultimately, whatever is happening in this world, good or bad, Duryodhan was bad because of Krishna only. Yudhishthira Maharaj was gambling because of Krishna only. Right. The war took place because of Krishna only. And somebody falls down because of Krishna only. Ultimately, Krishna is the only cause for everything. I said, we agree with that. Krishna is the cause for everything, good or bad. But he is not the only cause. He is the primary cause, but living entity is also a minor stakeholder. 2% तो उसका उत्तरदायित्व है. Otherwise, what will happen when we say only Krishna is the cause, then the responsibility of sin also lies with Krishna. Therefore, the Vedas say that to say Krishna is cause for everything, तो हमारे पाप का भी कारण भगवान ही हो, तो उसका परिणाम क्या हो गया? The Lord is basically, you are making again a kind of person who takes pleasure in doing wrong things. Who takes pleasure in seeing his people do wrong things. Like Prabhupada told that story. He is not like the Nawab of Hyderabad. Nawab of Hyderabad, when he saw a chandelier, one of the crystal stone, fell down. Rather the servant, he dropped it. And the stone made very peculiar sound. And the Nawab came down, looking, what happened? And the servant realized, abhi stone gir gaya, abhi mera gala gir jayega. So he said, what is that sound? He said, sir, the chandelier ka patthar hai na, niche gir gaya. Bola, aur gira, bahut acha hai awaaz. So for him, even breaking is a pleasure. Prabhupada's one god brother told a story, one of the very famous, Sultan, he came to visit London and he came to Buckingham Palace. He went to so many places, then he came to the place where people hang. The criminals were hanged. And he asked him, what is this place? He said, no, this is the place where we hang our criminals. He said, how do you do that? They said, no, we can't demonstrate because we don't have any criminal. He said, mere ek aadmi ko le lo, usko hang karo. He said, we can't do that. He said, no, it's my servant, mera aadmi hai, usko hang karo, mujhe dekhna hai. I want to see. He said, but we can't do that. He said, no, I'm telling, I want to see. So he was so much wanted to see the death of somebody. So he was willing to put one of his servants' life in danger. Fortunately, sometimes the Britishers behaved good also. No? So they didn't do that. No? They didn't do it. So therefore, here to say that Krishna is responsible for everything, what does it do? That makes Krishna allowing us to perform sinful activities. Therefore, one of the brilliant principles what Krishna presents in the Bhagavad Gita, nowhere in any other literature this concept is presented so crystal clear. Like in the Buddhist philosophy, you are responsible for your elevation, because there is no God. It's a process of, monkey, a baby monkey trying to climb over mother's lap. So much the monkey is trying but cannot, because one's own endeavor will not benefit. And the Christianity talks about you can't deliver yourself. There is no question you can deliver. There has to be a deliverer. It's an descending process and one is ascending process. आप कर ही क्या सकते हो? What can you do to save yourself? Because originally you are sinful. Therefore, whatever you do is all legacy of sin only. So these both philosophies are opposite to each other. But Krishna is teaching what? Krishna says, Arjuna, it is your responsibility. How much? 80% is your responsibility. Collecting right instruments. Right ingredient. Collecting right ingredient for elevation. Therefore, Rupa Goswami explains, Anukulyasya Sankalpa. In Bhakti, there has to be Anukul Vatavaran. Most of us, we cannot practice devotional service anywhere and everywhere. It's easier to say, that whether I'm in the hellish planet, whether I'm in the heavenly planets, whether I'm king, whether I'm bhikari, Krishna, whatever it is, I want to practice devotional service. But most people cannot do that. You lose your job, your chanting Hare Krishna stops. Or even if you chant Hare Krishna, the job anxiety is more dominating than chanting stays in the background, like a background music. But the forefront is what? The anxiety. It's very difficult for ordinary person to chant Hare Krishna, to be Krishna consciousness in an adverse situation. That is our desire, that is our hope. Therefore, Rupa Goswami explains, Anukulyasya Sankalpa, Pratikulyasya Varjanam. So, collecting right ingredient is one responsibility of the living entity. And second, practicing your endeavor in a right place. Sahi Vatavaran pe usko karna. Sometimes people say, if God is everywhere, why there should be a temple? Yes, God is everywhere, but can I see God everywhere? Do I have the courage, do I have the art, do I have the confidence, maturity to see Krishna everywhere? Yeah, that is philosophy is there, but can I see God everywhere? Therefore, performing action at the right place. Temple, association of devotees, homely, which is connected to Krishna conscious atmosphere. That is the place where we normally can practice devotional service. Therefore, right place, right ingredients, right place. And third is our endeavor. You have a car, you have a nice car, you have a license, you have best of the road, but you are not driving only. Somebody was telling Prabhupada about the concept of soul and the body. He said, the soul what makes the body move. Otherwise the plane which is flying in the sky cannot fly if the soul, the living entity is not making it fly. Otherwise it will sit on the ground for millions of years without moving. However good that plane is. Why? Because the person who is supposed to operate, if he is not operating, it will not move. Therefore our endeavor is also important. One is the place to endeavor, endeavoring, ingredient to endeavor, and fourth and the most important principle is our involvement, our heart. As Gauram was mentioning, that there is no love, then there is no Shraddha only. So therefore, whether I am doing it because it is imposed, like one of the boy, he almost had tears when he was speaking about why he practices Krishna consciousness. Yes, I came to Krishna because of my parents, but I am beyond that also. It is not because of them only I am practicing now. Certainly all the credit goes to them for giving me devotional service, but it is my choice also now. Ye mera choice hai. And therefore when he is in college, some of his student friend ask him, "Are tu ekadashi kyun karta hai? Upas kyun karta hai? Khata kyun nahi? कोई जबरदस्ती कर रहा है क्या?" बोला नहीं, मैं खुद करना चाहता हूं. When Ekadashi becomes my choice, then that is fasting. When Ekadashi becomes somebody else's choice, that is become starvation. That is the difference between fasting and starving. Starving makes us malnourished, and fasting makes us elevated to Krishna consciousness. So it depends upon why are we fasting. It is forced upon us, or it is we are doing because we want to show some affection to Krishna. So therefore these four things are our responsibility. Now this is what Krishna is speaking in the Bhagavad Gita. And the fifth is what? It is Krishna's grace, Krishna's kindness. If Krishna's kindness is not there, whatever endeavor we do, then we will not be successful. Therefore Krishna is there and living entity is there. But the difference is our endeavor, however much we endeavor, what is the result of our endeavor? I love to quote this story of one Brijbasi he told. He said, देखो महाराज जी, मैथमेटिक्स क्या है? भक्ति का मैथमेटिक्स क्या है? He says 99% प्रयास आपका, 1% कृपा भगवान का. What is it? He said 99% endeavor is your responsibility, 1% grace Krishna's responsibility, but the result is your 99% hard work turns into 1%. In regards to consequences केवल 1% है, और भगवान का 1% कृपा है, उसका परिणाम 99% है. लेकिन ऐसा नहीं सोचना चाहिए, you should not think that 99% Krishna's endeavor and mine 1% endeavor. We understand this mathematics wrongly. Endeavor is 99% ours, but Krishna's Krupa is 1%, but the consequences is opposite. So this concept what Krishna presents in the Bhagavad Gita is very brilliant, and therefore we see in the entire Mahabharata, Krishna had to resist against his very people to establish dharma. To resist against the Kauravas is one thing. To resist against the Jarasandha, Kamsa, Shishupal, they are known enemies. Very easy to understand. But your very people, if they resist to establish dharma, what can you do then? And who are resisting? The first person who was resisting Krishna establishing dharma is Lord Balram only. If you read in the Mahabharata, recently somebody wrote an article, why Lord Balramji chose to favor Duryodhan over Bhim. Right. And then the article was mentioning how Balramji, it didn't mention about Balramji, it mentioned about Duryodhan, how Duryodhan was not actual disciple, he was a fake disciple. Whatever he was doing had a motivation to gain something from Lord Balramji. That was presented very nicely. But somebody raised the question, but why Balramji is still very nice to Duryodhan? That is the reality. What Balramji was doing? Balramji wanted to offer his own sister to Duryodhan. Can you imagine? Balramji wanted Subhadra to marry Duryodhan. यानी कि उसमें कोई संबंध नहीं था. दुर्योधन से कोई प्रेम कर सकता है क्या? कोई नहीं प्रेम कर सकता. फिर भी उससे प्रेम करने वाले थे. उसकी पत्नी थी. She had a loyalty. More than love, she was responsible as a dutiful wife. There was Mamata in Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. And the brothers were very loyal to Duryodhan. But to love him is very difficult. But Balramji loved Duryodhan to such an extent, he was willing to offer his own sister without asking her also. Blind affection to Duryodhan, कि मैंने तुमको वचन दे दिया कि मेरी बहन तेरी. When Krishna got to know that, Balramji is marrying Subhadra to Duryodhan, Krishna did not speak anything. Subhadra came running to Krishna, what will happen to me? He said, everything is happening by the will of God only, right? What can I do for that? And who is Balramji? Balramji is Krishna's very self. Krishna's very self is opposing Krishna. Just imagine, अगर भगवान ही भगवान के विरुद्ध है, तो फिर भगवान क्या कर सकते हैं? भगवान ही भगवान के विरुद्ध है. And how Krishna, worked so diligently without opposing Balramji, he tricked Balramji without telling him that I am tricking you. In fact, he told, this brahmachari, Arjun, he didn't tell that as Arjun. What exactly happened was that when Arjun came as a sannyasi, Krishna told Arjuna, he said, you dress yourself as a sannyasi and you come to my home. And Arjuna said, my dear Lord, if I take one sannyas dress, then usko nikalna bahut bada अपराध है. तो कृष्ण बोला तू पहना ही नहीं पहले, वो तो केवल नाटक है. No, he said you have to come to my place and my brother will give you all the reception. You accept all the reception, and once he receives you very well, he will arrange Subhadra to serve you, and that is the best chance for you to know whether Subhadra likes you or not. Krishna wanted Subhadra to marry Arjun, but he would not do it unless Subhadra wanted Arjuna to marry. Just see how Krishna is so sensitive also. You know, Krishna has his own feelings, but his feelings are not controlled. It is not against the intelligence. Therefore, again, Krishna again in the Bhagavad Gita explains, very beautiful concept, Buddha Bhava Samanvita. Bhakti can only be performed with the combination of Bhakti and Buddhi. Bhavana without Buddhi, what will it do? It will create havoc in the society. Shruti, Smriti, Puranadi, Pancharatrik Vidim Vina, Aikantika Hare Bhakti Rutpate Vahi Kalpate. Unlimited emotions are there, but Bhava, Buddhi is not there. That will create trouble. And Buddhi without Bhava is dry. You know, intellectual gymnasticism will not help. So Krishna is talking about both. So Krishna arranged, Arjuna got attracted to Subhadra, Subhadra got attracted to Arjuna. Then Krishna arranged everything for Subhadra to be kidnapped by Arjuna. And when Subhadra was kidnapped by Arjuna, and Balramji got to know it was not a sannyas, it was Arjun, and he kidnapped my sister and promised to whom? Duryodhan. He said, I'm going to kill Arjuna. Give sister to Duryodhan and kill Arjun. That is Balramji. Just see. And what Krishna told Balramji very quietly said, he said, my dear brother, this is not a kidnap case, this is a runaway case. So then Balramji realized, then immediately he changed. So Balramji opposed Krishna, but in opposing Krishna, they never broke the relationship. That is the beauty of Krishna. Krishna creates a conflict, people conflict with him, but even if there is a conflict, they don't break relationship. Balramji, I love this part of the Mahabharata, that the entire war he was not there, right? He went for pilgrimage. अरे झगड़े में मुझे भाग नहीं लेनी, मुझे अच्छा नहीं लगता झगड़ा बगड़ा, सब लोग प्रेम से रहना चाहिए. नो, आई थिंक महात्मा गांधी को बलराम जी ने एम्पावर किया होगा. Right? So Balram ji went away from the battle. He said, I don't want to take part. But when the crucial final match is going on, he comes there. And whom does he support? He supports Duryodhan again. And when he supports Duryodhan, he is standing there, and then all the Pandavas are thinking, my God, now the trouble has come here. Why? Because during the peace conference also, when the Pandavas were choosing Krishna to go as a peacemaker, everybody was talking about what the Kauravas did against the Pandavas. And Balramji stood up and he said, actually I want to say something. He said, the entire gambling match, the entire problem has happened not because of Duryodhan, he said because of Yudhishthir Maharaj. इसका उत्तरदायित्व है. इसको कौन बोला था जुआ खेलने के लिए? इसके जुआ खेलने के कारण ये सब कुछ हो गया. इसलिए don't blame Duryodhan. He says that, he has guts to say because he is Krishna only, na? And who can stop him other than Krishna? And only when Balramji resists, then Krishna flourishes. Krishna's prosperity of presenting his loyalty towards his devotee comes wherever there is a greater resistance, and resistance posed by by Balramji, by Bhishma, by Krupacharya, by Dronacharya. Such people, when they resist, what does Krishna do? Krishna exhibits his greatest love towards his devotees. He stops them from taking care of his devotees, and after stopping them, he goes back to these people and gives his kindness also. So Balramji opposed and Bhishma opposed Krishna to such an extent, when he was fighting Arjuna was not fighting Bhishma, but Bhishma was fighting not only Arjun, also Krishna. To what an extent? That Krishna was not fighting, but Bhishma was shooting arrows at Krishna, and Krishna was bleeding to such an extent, and still Arjuna was not willing to kill Bhishma. So what Krishna does? Krishna jumps off the chariot to strike at Bhishma Dev at the cost of, breaking his own promise. Arjuna said, my dear Lord, what will the world say about you? He said, let the world go to hell, I don't care. And now we see also, people condemn, criticize Krishna, he broke his promise. He knew 5,000 years ago, such intellectuals will come in India. They will raise questions, why Krishna did this, why Krishna did that. Right? He said, I don't care. My main concern is that this personality is acting against you, he is striking at you. If you don't kill, I will kill. Krishna went to kill him, and he stopped Bhishma. Arjuna did kill Bhishma. In fact, he brought him down. But there is no anger. That very Lord goes to Bhishma Dev at his deathbed. Now who can do that? Your worst enemy in one sense. On the battlefield, इतना बड़ा शत्रुत्व लिया था, भगवान के ऊपर बाण छोड़ रहा है, और fierce battle. It is not, yes, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the Bhagavatam, he explains from the rasa perspective, from the Shringar ras, Bhishma Dev and Krishna के बीच में, lover और beloved के बीच में जो संबंध होता है उसी प्रकार से था. लेकिन from the Mahabharata's perspective, it was very clear. Bhishma was angry. He was angry like hell. He wanted to destroy the Pandava army. Right. So, and what is he doing? He is actually acting against Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So what Krishna did? Krishna struck Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev को बाजू में निकाला, लेकिन भीष्म देव के जो संबंध था ना उसको बाजू में नहीं निकाला. Krishna did not break the relationship. And therefore, there is no anger in the heart of the Lord. So Lord went to Bhishma at the time of Bhishma's death, and he stood there. One for great devotee, Pejawar Swami explains very beautifully. He says, what is the character of Krishna? He quotes one famous poem of Purandar Das. He says, the eagerness of the Lord to give mercy to his devotees and everyone. He said, if you sleep and chant, what does he do? He sits and listens. And if you sit and chant, he stands up and he listens. If you stand up and speak, he dances and he reciprocates with you. He says Bhishma was lying on the deathbed. So what did Krishna do? He went to hear Bhishma Dev. And how was he hearing? He was sitting and listening to him. When Krishna came to Dhruva Maharaj was doing his meditation. And what did Krishna do? Krishna jumped out of the heart of Dhruva and he stood there listening to Dhruva's prayers. And when Prahlad was discussing with Hiranyakashipu, there was a debate going on. Bhagwan hai kya? The original student of the medical college. Original engineering student. Hiranyakashipu. Right. This is the modern fashion. What is that? To say that I believe in God, that means you are primitive. But to say that I don't believe in God, that means you are progressive. That has become a psychology. किसी न किसी प्रकार से प्रश्न उठाना कि भगवान का अस्तित्व नहीं है. So Hiranyakashipu was asking this question to Prahlad. No, how do I know that God exists? Your Krishna is here in this pillar. And what does Prahlad say? He said, my dear father, his Lord, my Lord is everywhere. There is no place he does not exist. So when Prahlad spoke this to Hiranyakashipu standing, so what did Lord Narsimha do? He came jumping, dancing. Bhishma Dev के लिए खड़े हो गए, भीष्म देव के लिए बैठ गए, प्रहलाद के लिए, ध्रुव के लिए खड़े हो गए, एंड प्रहलाद के लिए नृत्य कर रहे थे. से दिस इज अवर कृष्ण. He is one step more eager to take us back to his place than we are eager. Therefore, having that assurance that Krishna is there is very interesting and very important. Therefore, one of the famous story which Prabhupada would always tell, not always, I told always, this story, somebody asked him, he said, Swamiji, have you seen God? Now the answer defines the character of a person who is giving the answer. If you say, yes, I have seen God, only I have seen God, nobody has seen God, then what happens? God becomes your private property. मेरा वस्तु है वो, और दूसरों के पास नहीं है. So Prabhupada answered this question. He said, what difference does it make whether I have seen God or not? Because my experience is my experience, but I have the process to make my experience as your experience. You can see God. आप भी भगवान को देख सकते हो. Don't make God private. God is actually a public property. सरकार लिखते हैं गवर्नमेंट प्रॉपर्टी, लोग लिखते हैं प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी, लेकिन शुद्ध भक्त लिखता है पब्लिक प्रॉपर्टी. God is a public property. He said, you can experience. Chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Therefore, Krishna is so easily available in Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhagavatam, in the Mahabharata, in the Ramayana, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Right? Is so easily available. Therefore, in this verse he is saying, my dear Arjun, one who can see me in everything and everything in me is never lost to me and I am never lost to him. Such a beautiful verse. So therefore, in the Bhagavatam 7th canto, Prabhupada explains, it is much more difficult to be a non-devotee demon. It is much more difficult to be a non-devotee demon than a simple devotee. Why? Because to be a demon, you have to work very hard. To break principles, you need to have money also, right? इतना सब भोग करने के लिए आपको संपत्ति की आवश्यकता पड़ती है. और क्या गारंटी है कि इतना सारा पाप करने के बाद भगवान खुद आकर मारेंगे? मच्छर मार देता है फिर. तो फिर भगवान अगर नहीं मारेंगे तो फिर आप भगवान के धाम में नहीं जाओगे. Only when you become a demon like Hiranyakashipu, Ravan, Kumbhakarna, Shishupal, that can only be for those who are in the spiritual world like Shishupal and Jay and Vijay. Only they can be that kind of demon. But for being a devotee, it's very easy. Very easy to be a devotee. What, you just take little prasad. As Gauranga Prabhu mentioned, how much prasad? 2 billion plates of prasad has been distributed. मतलब चालू हो गया उनका. No, it is started. They have seen hundreds of devotees chanting. They said, hey, Krishna. They said Takle also, but they also said Krishna. So what they said wrong thing was their pleasure. But they also said Krishna. They heard Krishna's name. So they began their devotional service. Right. And someone is connected to devotee. Somebody connected to devotee. I have told this story also in Mira Road. One lady, she was not chanting Hare Krishna, but her husband was a devotee. And then what happened? But because she was a wife, chaste lady, serving her husband, she would cook for deities. And she cooked for the deities because the husband was not there. And she offered it. She was not doing it as loving devotional service. She is doing it as a duty. उसका उत्तरदायित्व क्या था? मेरे पति भक्ति करते तो मेरी उनको उनकी सेवा करनी है. ऑफर कर दिया. दिसंबर का महीना था और जोर से हवा आ गया, ठंडी हवा. And it hit her hard. And what happened? She chanted Hare Krishna and she dropped dead. She chanted Hare Krishna and she dropped dead. Now, just imagine she did not practice sadhana bhakti. Her sadhana was, in one sense, extended sadhana. Doing sadhana for her husband, not directly for Krishna. Krishna said, वो भी चलेगा, वो भी चल जाएगा. मेरे लिए करो, मेरे भक्तों के लिए करो, मेरे भक्तों के लिए भी करो. किसी न किसी प्रकार से मेरे के लिए कर रहे हो ना. He takes like that. Krishna takes it like that. Krishna's greatness, he thinks that you are doing it for me. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita again, when Krishna says there are 4 kinds of people who surrender to me. Arto, Artarte, Jigyasu and Jnani. And what does Krishna call them? Krishna calls them Udara Sarva Evahi. He says, my dear Arjuna, these are all magnanimous. Why does he call them magnanimous? Why does Krishna call these people as magnanimous? one thing is because they are coming to him. Right. You are not going here, you are not going there, you are coming to me, therefore you are magnanimous. That is one way to see. But another Vaishnava Acharya, Vedanta Deshika, he explains why Krishna calls these people as very great, because he says, because of these people, they give my position as a giver. अगर ये मेरे पास आएंगे नहीं तो कैसे सिद्ध होगा कि मैं देने वाला हूं करके? जो देने का धर्म है मेरा, to give bhakti, to give charity, to give them what they want, that can only happen if people come to ask from me. And only they ask from me, I get the opportunity to give. And because I give, my position of giver is established, therefore they are very magnanimous. अब मुझे वो अवसर देते देने का, इसलिए वो महान है. देखो क्या चेतना है. What kind of consciousness Krishna has? This is the consciousness of Krishna. That he feels that they are giving me an opportunity to render service, therefore my dharma is established. मेरा भी धर्म है ना. जैसे जीव का धर्म है भगवान की सेवा करना, भगवान का भी धर्म है किनकी सेवा करना? अपने भक्तों की सेवा करना. क्योंकि भक्तों को सेवा करने का अवसर भक्त देते हैं, इसलिए भक्त महान है. ये कृष्ण इज थिंकिंग फ्रॉम दिस पर्सपेक्टिव. एंड देयरफॉर व्हेन पूतना केम टू कृष्णा, now Uddhav is glorifying Krishna. What does he glorify Krishna as? He said when Putana came to Krishna, what was her intention? Her intention was not to give milk. दूध था, लेकिन दूध केवल एक फसाद था, डिसेप्शन था. लेकिन असली क्या देना चाहते थे? विष देना चाहते थे. So Krishna drank the poison, Krishna drank the milk, and Krishna drank her life also. But what he did not remember that I drank her life, I drank poison. What he remembered that I drank her milk. And therefore, as Prabhuji was mentioning, that he gave her the position of mother. Now whether you call her nurse or mother doesn't matter, because the Vedas say nurse is also mother. उसको भी माता का स्थान दिया हुआ है. And therefore again the Vaishnava Acharyas explain, when Krishna was departing back to the spiritual world, he remembered his mothers. जैसे उन्होंने अपने माँ का स्मरण किया, when he remembered his mother, 3 mothers came. Devaki, Yashoda and Putana also came. And Krishna accepted. He didn't say, you are not my original mother. That was Karna's problem. Krishna could handle everybody as mother. He had no problem, ये मेरी mother है, ये मेरी mother नहीं है, ये मेरी mother नहीं है. He could handle all the 3 and call them all as the mother. Right. So that was Krishna's greatness. He was able to give his kindness to Putana. He was able to give kindness to Devaki. He was able to give kindness to Yashoda also. With every mother, we read in the Bhagavatam 3rd canto, Uddhavji is remembering. He says, you know what, Vidur? Our Krishna, when he saw his parents first time, Devaki and Vasudeva. Now why did Krishna go to Vrindavan? Was it he was burdened by his parents? They are staying in jail. I don't want to stay in the jail. Jail is not the place for me. India is the jail. I want to go to America. And then when they go, they don't come back to India. Parents, you stay here. We will stay there. I will worship in separation. Many times it happens like that. But Krishna, when he came back to Dwarka, Uddhavji is saying, Krishna is begging forgiveness from his parents, saying that I did not take care of you. मैं पहले से वृंदावन चला गया, मुझे क्षमा करो. He said, you please forgive me because I could not serve you. And those who served him, Yashoda Mai and Nand Maharaj, what happened? He had to leave them. And he's begging forgiveness from there also when they came to Kurukshetra. So the very Lord who gives pleasure to them by giving an opportunity to serve, what does it do? Begs forgiveness from them. कि मैं आपकी सेवा नहीं कर पाया. Whether it is Radharani, whether it is Pandavas, whether it is Nand Maharaj, whether it is Yashoda, whether it is Devaki, whether it is Dwarkavasi, whether it is his queen, what does he do? He gives them the opportunity to serve, but he feels that I did not give them all opportunity, and therefore he begs forgiveness for them. This is another character of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? Begging forgiveness from his devotees. To such an extent that is a Vaikuntha nature, when in the Vaikuntha also when 4 Kumaras cursed Jai Vijay, who was responsible for their crime? Now Jai Vijay were responsible for their crime, and 4 Kumaras were responsible for being angry. They should not be angry in the spiritual world. And the Jai Vijay should not be doing what they did in the spiritual world. And eventually 4 Kumaras did take responsibility, और हमको नहीं करना चाहिए था. Lekin what do you see? The Lord comes out. He comes out to the 4 Kumaras. And what does he say? He said, whatever curse you have given, that is ordained to them. इसलिए बुरा मत मानना. ये गलती मेरी है. क्यों? क्योंकि मैं उनका स्वामी हूं. और मैं उनका स्वामी होने के कारण वो मेरे अंग है. अगर अंग ने कुछ गलती की है तो शरीर का उत्तरदायित्व है. They are my angas and I am responsible for their crime. So therefore please, I beg forgiveness from you. Lord Narayan in the Vaikuntha world is saying this to whom? 4 Kumaras. He could have said, hey, तुम लोग कौन हो? आ गए इधर शाप देने के लिए. ये मेरा डोमेन है. It's my area and you are cursing my people. How dare you curse my people? Krishna is not, he is supporting his followers. But how does he support his follower? By sympathizing with the intruders. Basically 4 Kumar were in one sense intruders. They were not devotees, they were yogis. He made them feel so fascinated by Lord Narayan, they were shocked. They didn't know whether he is sarcastically speaking like that, whether he is speaking really. They were so bewildered. It took some time for them to realize actually Lord Vishnu's nature is like this. That is the nature of Lord Vishnu. And therefore, we read in the Mahabharata again, another very fascinating pastime where Draupadi was disrobed, attempted to be disrobed by these demons. Dushasan, Shakuni, Karna, everybody was trying to do that, and the good people are watching. Therefore, another principle Krishna teaches, a very interesting principle he teaches, that it is not that the bad people are responsible for the evil. It is the good people's neutrality is the problem. The good people, what do they feel? अरे हो जाएगा ना अपने आप कुछ न कुछ. मैं तो खराब नहीं कर रहा हूं. So all the Pandavas were watching and doing nothing. Bhishma they were watching and doing nothing. द्रोणाचार्य is crying, रो रहे, लेकिन रोने से काम नहीं होता ना. If people come crying, oh, nothing is happening, people are not becoming devotees, adharma is spreading, I am feeling very sad. What are you doing? No, what can I do? I don't think I can do anything. I can bring some fruits to Krishna. That's what I can do. So all these people were simply became observant. Therefore, our Bilva Mangal Thakur explains in his famous glorification of Krishna, Damodar, what is that verse? Govind Damodar Stotra. There he explains that when Draupadi was crying, for what? She was crying because of the crime of the Kauravas and Tata Pandavanam. He is adding Pandavas also. Tata Kurunam, Tata Pandavanam. Kurus were actively involved and Pandavas were involved because of not taking any action. In this incident, all Bhishma, Drona, Pandavas, they were become less than Jatayu. Jatayu was willing to lay down his life. It's very interesting. They became less than Jatayu, and therefore Krishna said, they need to be punished. And when Draupadi called for Krishna, Krishna did protect her. But when Draupadi met Krishna in that forest, what does she say? She doesn't glorify Krishna for providing sari. She didn't cry tears, Krishna, thank you for giving me sari. But rather Draupadi, she is so traumatized. She is so traumatized. She actually is so much traumatized. She doesn't remember the sari which was provided by Krishna. She only remember, Krishna, how is it possible that these are 5 husbands of mine? Ek Dharmaraj hai, कुछ धर्म नहीं उसमें। एक भीम है, वायु के समान उसके अंदर शक्ति है, लेकिन हवाई बंद हो गया था, कुछ नहीं किया। एक गांडीवधारी अर्जुन, शी सेड एक्चुअली हेल विथ इज गांडीव भो। तभी अर्जुन मारने के लिए नहीं गया जब युधिष्ठिर को मारने के लिए गया था। हेल विथ भीमस, द मेज and Nakul, Sahadev, they have all the medicine. But none of these people did anything. And Krishna, you? What kind of God are you? He said, you are supposed to protect me because I am your friend. You are supposed to protect me because I am a woman. You are supposed to protect me because I am a queen. And you are supposed to protect me because I am your devotee. ये 4 कारण थे मेरी रक्षा करने के लिए. आपने एक भी कारण नहीं देखा, मेरी रक्षा नहीं की. अगर आप भगवान हो और आपने इतने लोगों की मदद की है, अगर किसी ने आपके साथ ऐसा किया तो आप क्या बोलोगे? रिजाइन फ्रॉम बीइंग गॉड ओनली. राइट, आई डोंट वांट टू बी गॉड. हाउ मच आई डू सो मच टू दिस वर्ल्ड एंड पीपल स्टिल कंडेम मी. Therefore, Krishna is the greatest Nishkam Karma Yogi. Why? Because he keeps coming to this material world. Yada yada hi dharmasya glani. He comes whenever there is a need. And what do you see? Whether a devotee, non-devotee, semi-devotee, once in their life, at least they question, अरे कृष्ण ने ऐसा क्यों नहीं किया, मेरे साथ में ऐसा क्यों किया? उसके ऊपर गुस्सा तो दिखाते हैं, गुस्सा तो दिखाता है, प्रेम का है लेकिन गुस्सा है. Like people become angry with Krishna. So Draupadi became angry with Krishna, and what do you see? Beautiful. What does Krishna say? Krishna is telling, my dear Draupadi, I am sorry. मुझे क्षमा करे कि मैं दूसरे जगह में कहा युद्ध कर रहा था, इसलिए मैं आ नहीं पाया, मुझे जानकारी थी नहीं. Now Krishna is acting on the human platform. He is not a human. Just to enhance the pastime, he said, I am very sorry I was not around. They did not invite me. If they had invited me, I would have stopped this. And they would have not stopped. They would have not agreed to me. I would have struck them. I would have killed them. लेकिन मैं होने नहीं देता. लेकिन द्रौपदी याद रखना, Krishna says, the mountains, the Himalayan mountains may come down and become powder. The sun and moon may stop doing their duties. The oceans may get dried up. ये सब कुछ हो सकता है. लेकिन मेरी प्रतिज्ञा है, ये मेरा व्रत है कि जितने भी कुरुकुल के लोग आपके साथ में ऐसा किया है और देखते रहे, उनके सारे स्त्रियों को अश्रुओं की धारा बहनी होगी. ये मेरा व्रत है. तो द्रौपदी इससे संतुष्ट नहीं हुई. हर हैप्पीनेस वाज व्हाट? दैट कृष्ण इज बेगिंग फॉरगिवनेस. शी स्टार्टेड क्राइंग टीयर्स. एंड व्यासदेव जी राइट्स, she was thinking, I want to offer something to Krishna, but I have nothing to offer. Therefore, Krishna accepted her tears as the best form of water. Patram pushpam phalam. जो jalam है ना, jalam, that Madhvacharya explains in his Gita commentary, that jalam is not a Bisleri water. That jalam is not necessarily Ganga water. अरे हमने गंगा पानी कहां से, हिमालय से लेकर आए भोग लगाने के लिए भगवान के लिए. ये तो साहस हो गया है, भक्ति कम है उसमें. There is more adventure than devotion, right? So, more than talking about devotional service, you are talking about how difficult task I did perform to bring this water. But what Krishna is saying, beautifully Madhvacharya says, that when tears roll from your eyes, he said that tears is the best archana what Krishna appreciates. And Draupadi had nothing to offer, कुछ भी नहीं था उसके पास. अपने आंखों के अश्रुओं की धारा वो कृष्ण को अर्पण करने लगी और कृष्ण इतने प्रसन्न हो गए. And here the story did not stop. Krishna did not stop here. That the acharyas explain that every living entity, when he goes back to the spiritual world, when he is living, there are 3 things. What is it? Regret, satisfaction and gratitude. Gratitude, we see Prabhupada's departure also. When we see that video, there is all this thing is there. Samadhan hai कि कुछ इच्छा नहीं. That means he is satisfied. Regret, I could have done, half of my work is not completed. Varnashram Dhamma has to be established. I want to preach more. Right, so that incompleteness is a part of devotee's feeling also. And third is gratitude. That all this devotee did so much for me. The gratitude is there. So similarly, avatar also goes through these three principles. And what is one principle where Krishna is regretting? Krishna is regretting, thinking that, when Draupadi was calling for me, मैं थोड़ा देरी से आ गया. I got delayed. I did not come at the right time. She had to go through this traumatized situation. I was not able to come. And they give this explanation. Like a mother when she sees her baby falling in the well. She's taking care, she's cooking something and suddenly the baby falls into the well. And within no time the mother goes and picks up the baby. But she does not remember I protected my baby. इसका चिंतन नहीं करती हो कि मैंने मेरे बेटी को गिराया, उसका चिंतन करती है. हमारे भगवान क्या करते हैं? ये नहीं सोचते कि मैंने अर्जुन को बचाया, मैंने भीम को बचाया, मैंने इसको बचाया, उसको बचाया. हमारे पॉलिटिशियन लोग करते हैं, जो बचाते भी नहीं है. They don't protect us, but they talk about it. But here Krishna protects everybody, but what does he do? He regrets for not protecting at the right time. Therefore, when the living entity goes back to the spiritual world, how does Sanatana Goswami describe? Sanatana Goswami describes, it is not that Krishna is eagerly welcoming the living entity by saying, अभी तो सीखा ना lesson, मार खाया ना ठीक से इतना जीवन, अभी आ गया ना मेरे पास. He doesn't say like that. What does he say? He says, my dear living entity, how much struggle, how much difficulties you went through for coming to me. In fact, Sanatana Goswami says, Krishna faints. आपने कभी मित्रों को फेंट हुए देखा है? उनके कारण हमको फेंट होना पड़ता है. Friendship day, only good picture we can circulate around is Krishna embracing that devotee who has gone back to the spiritual world. And who has to be grateful? Gratitude has to be given by the living entity, not by God. But this is the ornament of God, that He doesn't need to be grateful, but that God is so grateful that He welcomes the devotee, that you struggled so much to achieve me. So therefore that mother is regretting for protecting her child late. He said this is Krishna's regret. Krishna is regretting towards gopis. Krishna is regretting towards his parents. Krishna is regretting towards the Pandavas. Right. So that is the character of Krishna. And why does he do that? Because another principle which Krishna teaches through Bhagavad Gita, a very interesting principle, a very serious principle. What is that? He says life is all about sacrifice. In this world, when we are living in the life of battlefield, what do we have? There is no fun. And there is no basically a hard labor, but there is a satisfaction of sacrifice. And if you see entire Krishna Leela, even though it is fun-filled Leela, but even in that fun there is so much of sacrifice. Gopis had to sacrifice. Nanda Maharaj had to sacrifice. Krishna had to sacrifice. Giving up Vrindavan. Can you imagine? It is not the present Vrindavan which is full of buildings. No, you can achieve this Vrindavan by going by plane nowadays, by going by train. You can drive also. And you get best of the room. 5-star hotels are there. लस्सी आ जाएगी लोही बाजार से पीने के लिए. फर्स्ट क्लास महाप्रसाद भी आ जाएगा. सब कुछ हो जाएगा. But when we talk about the Vrindavan concept, which is spoken in the Bhagavatam, what is that Vrindavan concept? That Vrindavan concept is unlimited sacrifice. Where does it begin? It begins with Vasudeva, in one sense. Can you imagine Vasudev's life? Vasudeva was known for telling truth. To the extent where even Kamsa had complete conviction in Vasudeva's words. Nothing convinced Kamsa, he gave a 7-session course also. About you are not this body, you are spirit, soul. He talked about the valor of the king, the glory of the king, the honor of the king. Ye sab sunne par bhi Kamsa did not agree. But when Vasudeva said, I promise you Kamsa, every child who is born to Devaki, I will hand over to you. He said, okay, you go. Can you imagine? कम जैसे लोगों को किसी के प्रति विश्वास रखना, मतलब कितना Vasudeva was known for his honor. And what does Krishna do? Krishna takes birth तब तक वसुदेव has followed everything what comes. I said, Krishna takes birth and he tells Vasudev, ले चलो मुझे वृंदावन, और वहां से नंद महाराज की बेटी लेकर आओ. और वसुदेव कंस को क्या कहो, उसको बेटा हुआ ही नहीं, बेटी है. So Krishna takes birth so that Vasudeva begins to lie in his life. And can you imagine somebody so ardent follower of truth? हमारे लिए कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, कृष्णा के नाम के लिए झूठ बोला कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, क्योंकि झूठ बोलना हमारा आदत है ना. And to use that in Krishna service, that is the only way we can use. That's what we feel. Otherwise there is no way to purify. But here Vasudev to tell a lie, जिसने कभी मन में भी नहीं सोचा है, जिसके प्रति कंस की श्रद्धा है, कंस बोलता है जाओ, यानी कि श्रद्धा भी नहीं, अपने बाण, अपने प्राण की बाजी पे लगा रहे हो वसुदेव के ऊपर विश्वास रखते हुए. और कृष्ण क्या कर रहे, जाओ मुझे ले जाओ. वसुदेव बनना है किसी को जो हमेशा सत्य बोलता है, हमेशा झूठ बोलता है, उसके लिए वसुदेव बनता ही नहीं हो. तो हियर कृष्ण मेक्स हिम डू दैट. And then Devaki, after such a painful birth, one after another, and Krishna is saying, take me there. For how many years? Krishna does not meet Devaki for how many years? जो इतना सारा तपस्या देवकी का, और मेवा खा रहे यशोदा. सारा कुकिंग कौन कर रहे हैं, देवकी, और खाओ कौन रही है, यशोदा खा रही है. अरे कैन यू इमेजिन व्हाट देवकी वुड हैव टोल्ड. कितना बड़ा पॉलिटिक्स, इससे बढ़कर पॉलिटिक्स कोई करता ही नहीं है. कृष्णा इज द ग्रेटेस्ट पॉलिटिशियन. ही इज प्लेइंग सच अ पॉलिटिक्स दैट आई डू ऑल द हार्ड वर्क एंड एवरीथिंग गोज टू यशोदा. शी जस्ट फॉलोज दैट. इफ यू एक्चुअली सी फ्रॉम अ ह्यूमन पर्सपेक्टिव, फ्रॉम अ नॉर्मल मैनेजमेंट पर्सपेक्टिव, अगर ऐसा यहां हो गया, डिवोटी सर्कल में भी फेसबुक में आ जाएगा आपका नाम, मेरे साथ इसने अपराध किया, मेरे साथ इसने अन्याय किया, मेरे साथ इसने पॉलिटिक्स किया, आ ही जाएगा, 100% आ जाएगा. यशोदा देवकी कुड नॉट इवन हैड एनी ग्लिम्स ऑफ कृष्णा, व्हाट्स हैपनिंग विद कृष्णा. एंड देन व्हेन कृष्णा इज ग्रोइंग विद यशोदा, हो गया, इतना जम गया, कृष्णा मतलब ये मैं जा रहा हूं. No personality in this Leela had any control over Krishna. Apparently it looked that they were controlling Krishna, but everybody had to sacrifice, everybody had to sacrifice, everybody had to sacrifice. That to be Krishna's very close friend, it's not very easy. And the Pandavas, okay, Devaki lost her children, but Krishna was there. Yashoda lost Krishna only, right? No, but the Pandavas, if you see, to establish dharma, they were reluctant, they didn't want to stay, they were happy to be in the forest. Yudhishthira Maharaj said that, I will live on begging. He said that. Arjun said, Krishna, मैं भिक्षा मांगकर जीविका चलाऊंगा. On Bhima also almost said that, Krishna, I'm okay with 5 villages. And Nakul Sahadev had no opinion only. Whatever Yudhishthira's opinion is our opinion. So these Pandavas were willing to live by begging, so that they can have a satisfied life. झंझट नहीं चाहिए, बाहर इतना स्ट्रगल करना पड़ेगा. But what Krishna did, he chose these reluctant people to fight for dharma. And at what cost? अरे देखो कितने लोग मारे गए, कौरव के लोग तो मारे ही गए. Arjuna's all the sons were killed. Can you imagine in 18 days, Irvan was killed, and then Abhimanyu was killed, Ghatotgaj was killed, and then Arjuna's son through Draupadi was killed. सबके सब बच्चे मारे गए. Is it so easy to practice devotional service? Everybody was killed. Like one time Prabhupada called, Shruti Kirtipur and other devotee in the middle of the night. He rang a bell and they came. And he said, you this see picture? In the picture of Krishna fighting, Arjuna fighting against Bhishma. He said, being Krishna's devotee is not very easy. You have to kill your grandfather. He said, go and take rest. Huh? It is not about killing grandfather. It is about establishing dharma. It is not easy. Can you imagine? Nowadays, unfortunately, they said, okay, killing grandfather is not a problem. आजकल बाप को मार रहे लोग. People will not understand this concept. We have to give a lot of explanation. It is not about, bhakti is not about killing grandfather, please. It is not about killing grandfather means bhakti. Killing father is bhakti. No. Arjuna, now भीष्मदेव के प्रति अर्जुन का जो प्रेम था, हम कभी सोच भी नहीं सकते. We can't even imagine what kind of love Arjuna had for his grandfather. Simply remembering his personality, his form, Arjuna would cry tears. Because Bhishma is lovable. Even now when we remember Bhishma's character, we say, wow, what a personality. But what was he doing? He was on the side of adharma. प्रेम भर भर के अर्जुन का भीष्म के प्रति, लेकिन उनको मारना है क्योंकि अधर्म के स्थान पर है. Was it easy? Was not easy. One is you are getting your own family member get killed, and second you have to kill your own family member. Arjun is losing this side also his family member, plus he has to kill his own family member. And for what? Some people say Krishna is pervert. You know what? He takes pleasure in seeing everybody get killed. Ulta Krishna ki ninda bhi ho rahi hai. So Pandavas lost everything at the end of the day. Draupadi lost everything. Lost her father, lost her brother, lost her children. And what was there to rule? What was there to enjoy? Nothing there was to enjoy. All pain, 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 pain. फिर भी बोला कि अभिषेक कर लेना पड़ेगा क्योंकि उत्तरदायित्व है. Just see how, this sacrifice is so beautifully explained. Therefore, the Gita explains in one sense, there you may not experience happiness in this world, but you will experience satisfaction in this world if you do service to Krishna. आपको भोग का कोई अधिकार नहीं है क्योंकि भोग भूमि है ही नहीं. दिस इज नॉट अ भोग भूमि. भोग भूमि थे तो स्वर्ग में चले जाओ. देखते देखते 5-star होटल का आपका फीस खत्म हो जाएगा. But this land is a land of sacrifice. This land is of seva. And in this seva, there may not be guarantee of happiness, but there is a guarantee of satisfaction. I remember, I'll conclude, to explain this principle, how virtue, like recently, I told our, yesterday, Arvind Inamdar ji had come. Arvind Inamdar ji used to be one of the, greatest police officer of Maharashtra. Right. A very honest officer, मांस नहीं खाया, तंबाकू नहीं खाया, शराब नहीं खाया, बंगाली शब्द से बोलना हो तो, और पैसा नहीं खाया, no? चारों भी नहीं खाया. Nothing he ate. He worked so diligently serving his department. And can you imagine who were his masters? किन लोगों के नीचे काम कर रहे थे? The people were not very good to work under. So he said, a very interesting point he was mentioning, just to make how Gita is relevant in our life. He said, in my 35 years of work, I was transferred 29 times. 35 साल में 29 बार transfer हो गया. Right. And he said, last year when I was working as a Director General of Police, where 200,000 police were under him, 20,000 officers were under him, 200 IPS were under him. It's not an ordinary, right? आजकल लोगों को पुलिस का जॉब भी नहीं मिलता. And so many people were working under him. And he had one more year left to work. But there was a man, disguised as a minister. He became the minister, and then he was like, in Marathi देश हपापलेला असतो ना, 12 बजे हम लोग एक्सपीरियंस करेंगे उसका. So this man, when he became a minister, home minister, he was like transferring police officer here and there, and then doing all kinds of dishonest work, honestly. So then he told him, sir, look, he said, I am accountable for this job, but you are taking the responsibility of making people go here and there. He said, either you take the responsibility or give me the adhikar. ये ऐसा नहीं होगा. आपके हाथ में अधिकार और अकाउंटेबिलिटी मेरा होगा, ऐसा नहीं चलेगा. Then he said, he was in his own world. He transferred him, created a decorative post without any power. So then he said, I will resign. He said, what? He said, for me to resign was not easy thing, because I never made money by any other means other than my salary. मेरे salary के बिना मेरे पास पैसा नहीं था. So to give up my job 1 year advance means losing about 18 lakh rupees. Now 18 lakh rupees is not a small amount. Not only 18 lakh rupees losing, he said every month, because I took voluntary retirement, I would lose 3,000 rupees in my pension. Every month 3,000 less. That's about 36,000 rupees per year less. And he made a very striking point. He said, what? He said, in virtue, there is a price you have to pay. Virtue के लिए आपको price देना पड़ता है. My price for virtue was 18 lakh rupees plus 36,000 rupees per year. He said, virtue does not come free of cost. Very interesting. Therefore, Krishna's teaching is, it is not that you practice dharma because something else will come because you practice dharma. Bhakti करने से कुछ मिलेगा, ये करोगे, फिर वो भक्ति नहीं, वो कर्मकांड हो गया. I practice devotional service because I'll get something else. I practice devotional service because I'll be freed from this world. Krishna will say, come back here, I want you to be here 10,000 years. If Krishna says, what will you do? अगर आप भक्त हो ना, अगर आप भक्त हो, then what happens? Then Bhakta gives all the responsibility of decision in Krishna's hands. He doesn't say, Krishna, take me back to Godhead. Then it is Karmakand, even though it's Godhead only. He said, doing devotional service is my responsibility, and what you do with my devotional service is your responsibility. So ordinary dharma is so much price has to be given. What to speak of pure devotional service? Very high price one has to give. So then he was saying, he said, I lost all that money. I had to pay a price. Another day he came. He said, what, I have a question. He said, I have a question. He said, why the hell Duryodhan went to heaven? Why did he go to heaven? He said, I can't accept this. This is unfair. कि इतना सारा पाप कर दिया, did such a sinful activity, at the end of the day good people and bad people are good, both are in the heaven. What is the point of being good? Very logical question, right? He said, जो अच्छे लोग बुरे लोग दोनों भी स्वर्ग में जाना है, तो फिर बुरा अच्छा रहने के लिए संघर्ष क्यों करना है? So I was telling, what, it was an illusory swarga. थोड़े समय के लिए था. अरे थोड़े समय के लिए या ज्यादा समय के लिए, 1 मिनट के लिए भी नहीं जाना चाहिए. Just police officer है ना. So therefore he said, how can he go? He said, immediate punishment होना चाहिए for good. Like Krishna, he punishes people. I said, sir, what? He said, आप लोग ने अजमल कसब को भी इतना रखा था ना, इतने फैसिलिटी में 2 साल के लिए. अरे मैंने नहीं किया, मैं होता तो उसको तुरंत खत्म कर देते थे. I didn't do that. He said, I don't agree with it. He should have not been kept for so long. Therefore he said, I have this question. How can this happen that good people or bad people both experience the same destination? He said, this question is there in my mind. I have no answer to this question. I said, okay. Then I asked him, sir, then why did you, if you have this question, why did you remain virtuous? आपको क्या मिला? अगर आप ये सोच रहे हो कि गलत लोगों के लिए भी वही है और अच्छे लोगों के लिए भी वही है, then why the hell you were virtuous? Now very interesting. He said, you didn't find any profit in that. You lost 18 lakh rupees. You lost 36,000 rupees per year. And now you are complaining about being virtuous. Why did you remain virtuous? He said, Swanta Sukaya. मेरे खुद के समाधान के लिए. So bhakti is like that. Bhakti is all about for satisfaction. Therefore Krishna, he told the gopis, what did he say? He said, my dear gopis, your devotional service is so high, so brilliant, so profound, कि आपने मेरे लिए सब कुछ छोड़ दिया. मैं क्या दे सकता हूं आपके लिए? What can I give you? I have nothing to offer. If Krishna would offer them anything, less than love, that is insulting their devotional service. अगर मैंने भगवान की भक्ति की, if I did pure devotional service, and in turn Krishna gives me heavenly planet, what is it? It is insulting my devotional service. If I do devotional service nicely, in turn Krishna makes me the president of one temple, Bhaktivedanta Manor. Huh? And you say, wow. And if I say it's wow, that means I didn't know what devotional service is. If I do devotional service to Krishna, and Krishna says, I offer you, whatever it is, because you cannot compare anything with devotional service other than devotional service. There is no fruit for devotional service other than devotional service. Therefore, Krishna made this very beautiful point to the gopis. My dear gopis, I have nothing to offer you other than devotional service. मेरे पास देने के लिए आपके पास मेरे पास कुछ भी नहीं है. So therefore, the result of bhakti, yes, for ordinary living, and it is, marketing is there in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu to attract them to Krishna consciousness. What does Krishna do? He gives them heavens dete, spiritual world dete, sab kuch dete. But the ultimate benefit of devotional service is what? Rendering devotional service. Therefore, Prabhupada, when they would ask him, what is the goal of chanting Hare Krishna? डर लगता है. We think goal of chanting Hare Krishna is what? Chant 16 rounds today and see tomorrow, right? The goal of chanting Hare Krishna, that means devotional service, is to chant more Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Therefore, we learn from Krishna only. What is His greatness? Compared to the concept of Abrahamic faith, where the Lord comes only once. खत्म. एक बार आएंगे और एक ही बार आपको चांस है. मुक्त हो गए थे मुक्त, नहीं हो तो कंडेम्ड हो गए हमेशा के लिए. You are condemned eternally. But Krishna, through His Srishti Leela, through His Sanhar Leela, through His Lay Leela, what does He do? He comes back again and again, repeatedly comes back to this material world. Therefore this verse, Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya, it is not so important to say, Krishna comes to establish Dharma because Dharma is getting destroyed. It is more important to understand Krishna repeatedly comes because He never gets exhausted. He never gets tired of coming to this material world, because ultimately Prakriti is eternal. Material world will always remain here. It may change. Brahmaji's may change. Indra's may change. Right. But the Prakriti will always be there, because Prakriti is eternal. And because Prakriti is eternal, and however many times you escape Krishna's mercy, you escape Krishna's kindness, what will He do? He will keep coming back to this world. He will keep coming back to this world. Therefore, Krishna being in the material world is more eternal than we being in the material world, because we go back to Godhead at one point of time. हम लोग चले जाएंगे, हो सकता है, that is possible, but Krishna not coming back to this material world is never possible. He will always come. And why does He come? Not for our sake, for His sake, because that is His kindness. बार बार आते रहेंगे. इसीलिए to such Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to His devotees, His incarnations, His expansions, we have to offer our obeisances. To all the great saintly people, taking that role of coming back again and again, creating so many facilities. Can you imagine creating 26 Second Avenue here? Our Tompkins Square Park. Making it here. That's very interesting. From there, Prabhupada, like Ganga, right? If you go to Gomukh, Ganga is not vast in Gomukh. Or if you go to Godavari, it's trickling, one drop of water. If you go to Kaveri, I was recently in Talakaveri, the source of Kaveri river. Very small pond. Very small pond. तो क्या होती है वहां से धीरे 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 निष्ठा के कारण, उसके डिटर्मिनेशन के कारण, वही छोटी गंगा उसका पात्र बढ़ते जाता है. She becomes bigger and bigger, bigger and bigger. Similarly, Tompkins Square Park is like a small trickle, wherein Krishna consciousness was planted. And slowly, 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 it kept on spreading. And to the extent where Prabhupada is teaching the concept which Krishna is telling us to practice. Try to see Krishna more and more. Try to see Krishna in others people more and more. The consciousness of a devotee has to be in such a way that unfortunately when we become fanatical, when we become narrow-minded, when we define Krishna consciousness from only our perspective, what do? We say, Krishna idhar nahi hai, Krishna udhar nahi hai, Krishna idhar nahi hai, Krishna tere jap mein nahi hai, mere jap mein. Krishna mere guru mein, tere guru mein nahi. Krishna mere mandir mein, tere mandir mein nahi. Tu deviant hai, wo deviant hai, ye deviant hai. Unfortunately, we become anti-Krishna conscious. Krishna's consciousness is what? To see Krishna everywhere. Wherever we can put our eyes, we can see Krishna. And therefore, Krishna says, one who can do that, such a person is never lost to me and I am never lost to him. Therefore, Prabhupada did that. He saw Krishna everywhere. In Tompkins Square Park he saw in the Bowery he saw, in the hellish part of New York he saw. Right, he was able to see that. So therefore, we can only ask Krishna, Krishna, expand my consciousness. I am very narrowed in my consciousness. I see only mistakes in others. I see faults in others. And as much as I see fault in others, that much I see less Krishna in them. And because I see Krishna less in them, therefore I experience Krishna less in myself. And because I experience Krishna less in myself, therefore I am always afraid about my existence, about my surrounding. But if I can see you everywhere, and that is Radharani's consciousness also. Krishnamai means what? One who can see Krishna everywhere. And since we are followers of Radharani, at least we should be aware of this understanding. To see Krishna everywhere is real Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Krishna consciousness means Krishnamai. Krishnamai means Radharani. Radharani means all the followers of Radharani in the Guru Parampara system, headed by Srila Prabhupada. And tomorrow, I was very Shamananpu. I told him I'm going to say, our Shamananpu is going there tomorrow, New York, on the order of His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. That for many years, he wanted him to go and do something in New York, because everybody felt that he understands America sitting here. But he's going there tomorrow for his born voyage, first time to America. So we request all the devotees to give him your blessings, that he strikes a chord with Americans, which he does very well, but that chord will connect them to Krishna, so that they can experience Krishna in New York, everywhere, and take to the holy name of Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Jai Shri Krishna Chandra Bhagwan ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanande.